When starting an electrical business, especially in a place like Florida, mastering estimating is essential. Here are some basic estimating methods that can be used to help ensure bids are accurate and competitive. The first method is the unit pricing method. With this approach, the estimated cost of each electrical component or task is determined, such as outlets, switches, wires, and lighting fixtures. The unit cost is then multiplied by the quantity of each component required. After that, all of the costs for all components are added together to get the total estimated cost. This method provides a detailed breakdown, making it easier to track expenses and adjust the estimate as needed. The second method is the square foot method. First, estimate the total square footage of the addition or remodel. Then, multiply the square footage by a predetermined cost per square foot. This method assumes a similar level of complexity and material usage throughout the project area, making it suitable for projects with consistent electrical needs. The third method is the comparable projects method. Here, the costs of similar projects recently completed in the area are researched. Then, the costs are adjusted based on the differences in size, complexity, and materials used in your specific project. Use this adjusted cost as the basis for the estimate. This method relies on historical data and market trends to provide a realistic estimate. The fourth method is the time and material method. In this approach, the number of IOs required to complete each task is estimated. These IOs are then multiplied by the hourly labor rate. Following this, the cost of materials and any other expenses are added. This method is more accurate but requires detailed knowledge of the project and the time required for each task. In addition to these basic methods, there are some additional tips to consider, especially for Central Florida. The climate and humidity can affect material costs and labor time. Ensure to factor in building codes and permitting fees, which can vary by location. It's a good idea to get quotes from multiple suppliers for materials to ensure you're getting the best prices. Also, including a contingency fund for unexpected expenses can help protect against cost overruns. Always communicate your estimate clearly and professionally to build trust with clients. Here's an example estimate for a residential addition using the square footage method. If the square footage is 500 square feet and the cost per square foot is $7.50, then the estimated cost is 500 times $7.50, which equals $3,750. Remember that these methods are estimates and should be adjusted based on the specific requirements of your projects. Seeking additional training and resources to improve your estimating skills over time is recommended. When determining the estimated cost of each electrical component, start by making a comprehensive list of all the materials needed for the project. This list should include everything from wiring and conduit to outlets, switches, light fixtures, and circuit breakers. Once you have a complete list, research the cost of each item from various suppliers to find the best prices. Keep in mind that material costs can fluctuate, so it's important to get up-to-date quotes before finalizing your estimate. For labor costs, consider the time required for each task. Break down the project into smaller tasks such as wiring circuits, installing outlets, and mounting fixtures. Estimate the number of IOs each task will take, taking into account the complexity of the work and your team's experience level. Multiply the estimated hours by your hourly labor rate, which should include wages, benefits, and overhead costs. When using the square foot method, it's crucial to determine an accurate cost per square foot. This cost should be based on historical data from similar projects, taking into account factors such as the quality of materials, the complexity of the electrical system, and any special requirements. Research local market rates and consult with other contractors to get a sense of the average cost per square foot in your area. Be sure to adjust the cost per square foot based on the specific characteristics of your project. For example, a high-end remodel with custom lighting and advanced electrical features will likely have a higher cost per square foot than a basic addition with standard electrical components. When using the comparable projects method, it's important to find projects that are truly similar to yours. Consider factors such as the size of the project, the type of construction, the age of the building, and the scope of the electrical work. Look for projects that were completed recently in your area, as this will give you the most accurate data on current market rates. Once you've identified a few comparable projects, carefully review their costs and adjust them based on the differences between those projects and yours. For example, if your project involves more complex wiring or higher-end materials, you'll need to increase the estimated cost accordingly. When using the time and material method, it's essential to track your time and expenses accurately. Keep detailed records of the hours spent on each task, as well as the cost of all materials and supplies. This will allow you to calculate your actual costs and compare them to your original estimate. If you find that you're consistently underestimating your time or expenses, you'll need to adjust your estimating process accordingly. Consider using project management software or mobile apps to track your time and expenses in real time. These tools can help you stay organized and ensure that you're capturing all of your costs. Also, don't forget to factor in overhead costs when estimating your labor rate. Overhead costs include expenses such as office rent, insurance, utilities, and administrative salaries. These costs can significantly impact your profitability, so it's important to include them in your labor rate. A common way to calculate overhead costs is to divide your total overhead expenses by your total billable hours. This will give you an overhead rate per hour, which you can then add to your direct labor costs to arrive at your fully loaded labor rate. Keep in mind that building codes and permitting fees can vary significantly depending on your location. Research the specific requirements in your area and factor these costs into your estimate. Contact your local building department or consult with other contractors to get a sense of the typical permitting fees for electrical work in your area. Be sure to include the cost of any required inspections in your estimate as well. Unexpected expenses are a common occurrence in construction projects, so it's always a good idea to include a contingency fund in your estimate. A contingency fund is a reserve of money that you can use to cover unforeseen costs such as unexpected repairs, delays, or material price increases. A general rule of thumb is to include a contingency fund of 5 to 10% of the total project cost. However, the appropriate amount will depend on the complexity of the project and the level of risk involved. Communicating your estimate clearly and professionally is essential for building trust with clients and winning bids. Make sure your estimate is well organized, easy to read, and includes a detailed breakdown of all costs. Use clear and concise language, avoiding technical jargon that your clients may not understand. Be prepared to answer any questions your clients may have about your estimate. If necessary, schedule a meeting to walk them through the estimate and explain your pricing. Remember to be transparent and honest about your costs, and be willing to negotiate if necessary. Building a strong relationship with your clients is crucial for long-term success. In Central Florida, the climate and humidity can significantly impact material costs and labor time. High humidity can cause materials such as wiring and conduit to corrode more quickly, requiring you to use more expensive, corrosion-resistant materials. High temperatures can also make it more difficult for your workers to perform their jobs, potentially slowing down progress and increasing labor costs. Ensure to factor these factors into your estimate. Consider using weather-resistant materials and scheduling work during cooler times of the day to minimize the impact of the climate on your project. Additionally, you may need to provide your workers with extra breaks and hydration to prevent heat exhaustion. When getting quotes from multiple suppliers, be sure to compare apples to apples. Make sure you're comparing the same quality of materials and the same level of service. Also, consider factors such as delivery times, warranty policies, and return policies. Building relationships with your suppliers can also help you get better prices and service. Consider establishing accounts with a few reliable suppliers and working with them consistently. This can help you build trust and negotiate better deals. Remember that estimating is an ongoing process. As you gain more experience, you'll become better at predicting costs and managing projects. Continue to learn and improve your estimating skills by taking courses, attending workshops, and consulting with other contractors. Also, stay up to date on industry trends and best practices. By continuously improving your estimating skills, you'll be able to win more bids, manage your projects more effectively, and increase your profitability. Understanding the National Electrical Code, or NEC, is also critical for accurate electrical estimating. The NEC sets the standards for safe electrical installations and is widely adopted throughout the United States. Familiarize yourself with the relevant NEC articles and requirements for your area. For example, NEC Table 310.15b16 specifies the allowable ampacities of insulated conductors rated up to and including 2000 volts. Understanding these ampacities is crucial for selecting the correct wire size for a given load, which directly impacts material costs. Similarly, NEC Article 250 covers grounding and bonding requirements. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety and can also affect material costs. By understanding the NEC, you can ensure that your estimates are accurate and compliant with safety regulations. When estimating for residential additions, consider the specific electrical needs of the new space. Will the addition include a kitchen, bathroom, or home office? Each of these spaces will have different electrical requirements. Kitchens typically require dedicated circuits for appliances such as refrigerators, dishwashers, and microwave ovens. Bathrooms require ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, protection for outlets near water sources. Home offices may require additional outlets and data cabling for computers and other equipment. By carefully considering the electrical needs of the new space, you can ensure that your estimate is accurate and comprehensive. When estimating for residential remodels, be prepared to deal with existing electrical systems that may be outdated or non-compliant. Older homes may have wiring that is not up to current code standards, or they may have overloaded circuits. You may need to upgrade the electrical panel, replace old wiring, or add new circuits to bring the electrical system up to code. Be sure to inspect the existing electrical system thoroughly before preparing your estimate, and factor in the cost of any necessary upgrades or repairs. Also, be aware of the potential for hidden problems such as asbestos insulation or lead paint. These hazards may require special handling and disposal procedures, which can add to the cost of the project. When estimating for lighting, consider the type of fixtures that will be used and the energy efficiency of the lighting system. Light-emitting diode, or LED, lighting is becoming increasingly popular due to its energy efficiency and long lifespan. While LED fixtures may have a higher upfront cost than traditional incandescent or fluorescent fixtures, they can save money in the long run due to lower energy consumption and reduced maintenance costs. Consider offering your clients a range of lighting options, from basic fixtures to high-end, energy-efficient models. Be sure to factor in the cost of the fixtures, as well as the cost of installation and wiring. When estimating for outlets and switches, consider the number of outlets and switches that will be required, as well as the type of devices that will be used. Standard outlets and switches are relatively inexpensive, but you may need to use more expensive, specialized devices in certain areas. For example, ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, outlets are required in bathrooms, kitchens, and other wet locations. Arc fault circuit interrupter, or SI, breakers are required on most branch circuits in new construction and remodels. Be sure to factor in the cost of these specialized devices when preparing your estimate. When estimating for wiring, consider the type and size of wire that will be required, as well as the length of the wire runs. The type and size of wire will depend on the amperage of the circuit and the distance of the wire run. Consult the NEC to determine the correct wire size for each circuit. Also, be sure to factor in the cost of conduit, connectors, and other wiring accessories. When estimating for electrical panels, consider the size of the panel and the number of circuits that will be required. The size of the panel will depend on the electrical load of the building. Consult the NEC to determine the correct panel size for each project. Also, be sure to factor in the cost of circuit breakers, grounding bars, and other panel components. When estimating for data cabling, consider the type of cable that will be required and the length of the cable runs. Category 5E, Category 6, In Category 6, the cables are commonly used for data cabling. The type of cable will depend on the bandwidth requirements of the network. Also, be sure to factor in the cost of connectors, patch panels, and other data cabling accessories. When estimating for home automation systems, consider the complexity of the system and the number of devices that will be integrated. Home automation systems can range from simple lighting controls to complex systems that integrate lighting, HVAC, security, and entertainment. Be sure to factor in the cost of the control system, as well as the cost of installation and programming. When estimating for solar panel systems, consider the size of the system and the amount of energy that it will produce. The size of the system will depend on the energy needs of the building and the amount of sunlight that is available. Be sure to factor in the cost of the solar panels, as well as the cost of installation and permitting. When estimating for electric vehicle charging stations, consider the type of charging station that will be required and the electrical capacity of the building. There are 3 levels of electric vehicle charging stations: Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3, also known as DC fast charging. The type of charging station will depend on the charging needs of the vehicle owner. Be sure to factor in the costs of the charging station as well as the costs of installation and permitting. Finally, remember to factor in profit when preparing your estimate. Your profit margin should be high enough to cover your overhead costs and provide you with a reasonable return on your investment. A general rule of thumb is to aim for a profit margin of 10 to 20%. However, the appropriate profit margin will depend on the competitiveness of the market and the level of risk involved in the project. By carefully considering all of these factors, you can prepare accurate and competitive electrical estimates that will help you win bid and grow your business.